What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Look how beautiful it out is today in Amarillo, Texas. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, it was freezing cold. Now it's warming up. I feel like it's time to get racing, but we got a lot of work to do before we get racing. Good news is that the turbo did come in. As you guys saw in the last video, the compressor side was in. We're still waiting on the exhaust side. The exhaust side has came in, so I'm going to show you guys in this video the turbo, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the compressor housing because I am going to actually polish the turbo housing myself. I want to get that nice mirror finish, but I want to try it myself since, as you guys know, if you didn't see, I'll show you real quick. I did it on my Aldo Welds air-to-water intercooler, and I think it came out pretty decent. So this was like a raw aluminum finish before, and I polished it, so I figured I'd take you guys kind of through the process of doing it on a turbo. Shout out Cupcake. So I've got the compressor housing off right now. I've got it taped up. If you guys know what this is from, comment down below. Only the OGs will know, but this is the compressor housing. So this isn't as rough as my previous S476 that I had. That one had a really rough cast, and so that one would have been really tough to polish out. You could have done it, but it would take just a lot more prep work. So obviously, you want to tape this up real good, just like you would if you were painting a car, painting a house, whatever. You want to just make sure you cover everything up. So I've got that covered up. I'm starting with 120 grit, and later in this video, you may see if I have to go with a rougher grit, but the 120 seems to smooth it out pretty good. Essentially what you want to do is get this finish as smooth as possible, and then start bringing the sandpaper up. So for instance, if we go from a 120 grit, then we want to go to a 240, a 320, a 400, 800, all the way up to like 3000, so we get that nice mirror finish just like the air-to-water. But this has got a decently rough casting, so it's going to take a little bit rougher sandpaper. So I'm going to see if the 120 will knock it down enough, and then we'll start working our way up from there. But we're going to start with some 120 grit and see where that gets us. I also got some chromoly tubing in here, and that is to support the turbo with the Maven mount that we have. So if you guys didn't see one of the couple videos ago, we got some Maven mounts to hold the turbo up. This is some, I think it's 1 1/8 inch chromoly tubing. This will actually support the turbo. So we've got that in. Like I said, the exhaust housing came in. It's in that bottom box, but I want to work on this first and kind of take you guys through the process of sanding this. So I know it doesn't look like much, but this is doing 120. Obviously it's still dirty, but this is doing like one pass of 120. So I'm actually going to try some 80 grit this time. It's a little more coarse, and it should take it down a little bit faster. You just want to be really careful you're not going too deep with this stuff. So I'm going to try some 80 grit, see if we can get it down even further. And then obviously to get into the actual Borg-Warner logo, that's going to be kind of tough. And then you want to make sure you get in here as well too. So I'm going to start working this with some 80 grit, and then we'll come back to some 120, and then we'll go up from there. Alright guys, so this is pretty much after the first round of sanding with the 80 grit. You can see it's starting to get like that brushed aluminum look. However, there's still like a lot of pitting and things like that from the cast, but it is starting to shine up a little bit. Starting to get pretty much all the rough edges off. Hardest part is really to get in between here, because then it just wants to sand this part more. So I'm trying to like just put my finger in there and just rub the sandpaper. It's just hard because there's not much leverage right there, but it's starting to get there. Like I said, this is with some 80 grit right now, so it's pretty coarse. I probably could go to like a 40 or a 60, but like I said, you want to be really careful with not taking this down too far. So I think I'm just going to keep using the 80 grit and just keep working it. I'm going to try and make probably one more full pass, and then I'm going to start making my way up. But I kind of want to see if I can smooth some more of these rough edges out. But like I said, it is getting there for sure. Alright guys, I've been hard at work. We just started using some 120 grit. It's not a huge difference, but check out these gloves. But it's starting to really smooth it out now. I pretty much went as deep as I wanted to go with the 80 grit, so I started working the 120 grit to start to smoothen it out. Like I said, it's not perfect, but I did try using a Dremel in like these really tight spots, but the Dremel cuts really fast and starts cutting into the shape of it. So I tried to not use it too much. But yeah, it's getting pretty smooth. Like I said, obviously, this is just after some 120 grit, so it's not perfect. And I'm not a turbo polisher by trade or a metal polisher, but I wanted to try polishing this myself. So it's obviously not going to turn out perfect, but we're going to see the best result we can get. But yeah, you can see, let me see if I can zoom in. Try to use the Dremel right there, and you can see it changes the shape really fast because the Dremel cuts quick. So I tried to use it in spots like that where I couldn't sand very well, and I just can't get anything deep down in that corner, but I did get this backside right here. So I think I'm going to start moving to some 220. I think that's what I got. Yeah, I've got some 220. So I just did some 120. I'm going to start using some 220, start to really smoothen it out, start removing a lot of the scratches that the 80 grit would put in, and then we'll start working to a 320. Okay, so this is after some 220, and then I started working on the 320. So like I said, there's still some spots I want to see if I can get out before I start working on the 400, because the 400 is really going to start adding a little bit of a sheen to it, and it's really going to get some of the lighter scratches out. So we need to really perfect this with the 320, because the 400 isn't going to change the look of this too much. It's just going to start shining it up. So any of this little pitting we want to get out, we're going to have to get it now with the 320, or even go back to the 220. But it's starting to come out pretty good. You can see it's really starting to shine up compared to where it was, because we did start hitting it with some 320. It's really smooth, but like I said, because of the way they cast these turbos, you see all the little tiny pits in the actual finish. So I know that's not going to look the greatest if we don't get some of those out. So I'm going to hit this with another round of some 320, and we may hit a few more spots back with some 220, and then we're going to start working back up. Alright guys, so I really wasn't happy with how the turbo was turning out, and I probably should have done some research first, but start with a metal wire brush. A lot of you probably already knew this, I didn't know it, but with how rough the casting is on these compressor housings, you've got to use a wire brush to get it smooth. Look how different this already looks this is just from using a wire brush. And it's already like starting to shine a little bit too, but the wire brush, I bought a pack. It's like this round cup one, a circular one, and it actually came with an end one, so I could actually get in here where I couldn't even get to before. This thing looks way different now. I was kind of upset about how it was starting to turn out, and I wasn't really happy with it, but now I'm pretty happy with it. So definitely start with a wire brush and then go to your sandpaper to get all the scratches out. So now I'm going to start hitting it with some sandpaper. I got all the rough spots out with the wire brush that I wanted to, and so now I can really hit it hard with some sandpaper. Alright, so this is after the wire wheel and then cleaning up some of the spots with 120 grit. So now we're going to jump to some 220 and then some 320 and really start working this thing out. But man, I'm way happier with this already. So I kind of did you guys a disservice from the beginning of the video, but we're getting there now. It's fixed. Alright, so I've been sanding for a little bit now. You can see it's starting to get a lot smoother, a lot shinier. Obviously there's still some scratches in there we got to work out, but we're starting to work on some wet 400 grit, so it's starting to smoothen it out a little bit. I've got a ton of work to do. I couldn't get this inside lip exactly as smooth as I'd like it to be, but it's pretty good. It's not bad. That's just dirt, don't worry. So I'm going to start hitting this with some 400, really try and smoothen this out, and then we'll get to some 800, and that's when we should really see it start to take shape, start to really shine, and then from there we'll probably get into some 1500, some 3000, and then at that point I'll show you what products we're going to use to polish it up. And look at that! So I've been working pretty hard. I already did 800 and I started working the 1500. It's still kind of wet from the sandpaper. I've been trying to wipe it off so you guys can see. But you can see it's starting to get that mirror finish. Obviously, it's not perfect, guys. I don't do this for a living, but just doing it myself. Obviously now it's really hard to get sandpaper in there, so I've been trying my best, but I think it looks pretty good. Pretty good. So this is 1500. I'm probably going to do one more round of 1500, just smooth it out as much as I can. And then we're going to work some 3000. And then we're going to get some steel wool and some compound I got. And I'll show you guys which brand we're going to use. But it's coming out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Alright guys, so after doing my air to water intercooler, this is kind of what worked out for me. So I used this Meguiar's correction compound. I use this with actually the 3000 grit. You can't even tell it's sandpaper. It's like a little sponge, but it's 3000 grit. I've been using that with the correction compound, and then I'll either do another pass with the 3000 with this Renegade Pipe Dream Chrome Polish and Conditioner, or I'll even do it with steel wool, just depending on how it's finishing out. And then I just started using this white diamond as a polisher and like a little sealant at the end. So we'll save this for later. Right now, we're going to work on the correction compound with the 3000 grit. And this is when you'll really start to see it shine. And any imperfections you had from earlier sanding, this is when you'll start to see them and start to hate yourself for not sanding more. But like I said, I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out so far. Alright, so there's after one pass with the Meguiar's correction compound and some 3000 grit. You can see the polish is starting to come out. Definitely got some work to do here, but it's pretty cool. The polish is starting to come out, man. It looks good. Woo! Look at that polish coming out. So far I've done 2 passes with the steel wool. One pass using the correction compound, and then I actually use the steel wool again to use the Pipe Dream from Renegade. So now what I'm going to do is I have these little, you guys have probably seen these, the Mother's polishers. So I'm going to do one pass with the Chrome Polish and Conditioner from Renegade on the actual Mother's ball, and then I'm going to finish it off with some white diamond to give it a little extra polish and then to seal it up. So got the drill battery charging, that's what the noise in the background is, but that is to run the Mother's ball. So we're going to hit it pretty good with the Mother's ball and this Chrome Polish and Conditioner, and that should really shine it up. And then like I said, the white diamond's pretty much just going to give it a little more polish, and that's going to seal it up. Alright, so there's with one pass using the Mother's ball. Look at that, coming out good. So actually I forgot, I picked this up at Harbor Freight, and these white ones are actually some of the best ones to use for polishing. They're really good for aluminum. So any of these like white fuzzy ones are really good for polishing. So I'm actually going to use this with the white diamond metal polish as kind of the finisher. Hopefully it adds a little more sheen to it. Obviously, I think it's hard to tell on camera, but let me see if I can zoom in. So you can see, like, this is where I couldn't sand down far enough to make it perfectly smooth. You can see little blemishes. I'm not afraid to hide it, but for the most part, I'm super happy with it. It's really hard to get in there. I was able to get in there with the metal wire brush to at least sand it down, but to shine this part is super hard. But in this little kit, I believe, yeah, so we'll try this little guy, see if we can get it in there and polish it up just a little bit so it doesn't stand out as much. Obviously, it probably won't get to the same mirror finishes up here, but if we can just get it a little shinier, at least it'll blend a little better. Alright guys, so I finished the turbo last night. It came out pretty good. Obviously it's my first time doing a turbo, so it's not the best. There's definitely some spots going around that aren't perfectly smooth. On camera it actually looks a lot better than it does in person. But you can see kind of like some pitting right here. But it's got a really nice mirror polish to it. It almost looks like it's chrome plated, which is the goal, but it's not actual chrome. Obviously, it's just aluminum polished into a mirror finish. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it looks really good. The turbo, we have decided we don't have enough time to put it in the center. So with 2K only being like, it sounds like a long time, but it's really not. It's like 6 or 7 weeks away. We don't have the motor yet. We don't have the converter back. We don't have the headers back from getting coated. We don't have the roll cage material in yet. The only thing we have that we ordered is the turbo. We still need injectors, coilovers, K-member. We are missing a lot of stuff. Nothing has shipped yet. We have the turbo. That's about it. So right now it's just a waiting game. Once the engine comes back from RPG, we'll get the engine in, we'll get the car over to Joe's and start fabbing up the turbo kit, and then we'll weld in the roll cage. We've got a lot of work to do and not that much time. Like I said, it sounds like a lot of time, but it's really not, because we have a lot of fab work to do. It's not just bolt everything back in. If we just had to bolt everything back in, it would be a lot easier, but we don't. We actually have to fab up the turbo kit again, and then we have to fab up the roll cage. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we just don't think we have enough time to actually center mount the turbo. So over the summer, when it's really hot and no one wants to be racing in like June, July, when it's really, really hot, that's probably when we'll actually pull the turbo kit out and then center mount the turbo, because I really want to center mount the turbo, but with how much work is actually involved, we'd have to, like I said, move the air to water, get a new radiator, make new radiator mounts, refab the whole entire hot side besides the headers. Whereas if we keep the turbo over here in the same spot, we can reuse the crossover pipe, reuse the headers, and then just remake the merge that goes right here, and possibly have to mess with this little cold side pipe. If we did a center mount, we'd have to pretty much redo everything, plus the air to water and the radiator would have to get moved. It's just a lot of work and not enough time. We're already playing the time card right now, so we've just decided to keep it where it's at. But yeah, we're just waiting on parts, guys. So not too many updates. That's why I've been like polishing stuff, because I've been trying to stay busy. I cleaned up a lot of wiring. I filled in a lot of holes that need to be filled in. I fixed a lot of stuff on the transmission that need to be done maintenance wise. Now it's kind of just a waiting game, which is the worst, because I'm like, we got to get going, we got to get work done. There's a bunch of work to be done and not enough time. So hopefully the engine ships soon. Hopefully K-member ships soon. Hopefully the roll cage ships soon. I actually got an email today from the roll cage. They said it should ship in 1 to 2 days, and then we'll just have to notch it and weld everything in. Hopefully the fitment is good. It's supposed to be really good. The K-member has not shipped. We haven't ordered the injectors or coilovers yet. We're waiting on those. Probably another week on those. Guys, tons of work to be done. I haven't even got word about my headers yet. So hopefully the headers are done being coated soon. It's a lot of work. All of that stuff, plus a dash, and all of that stuff has to go back in the car, plus a motor, plus a roll cage, plus a turbo kit, plus a turbo. Just a lot of work to be done. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that short video. It was my first time polishing a turbo compressor housing, so kind of went through some growing pains together. Obviously the wire brush, the metal wire brush, made a huge difference, and it made it easy work of getting this thing smooth, and then from there it's just sanding it and trying to perfect the sanding to get it as smooth as possible. But like I said, I'm really happy with it. It's definitely not the best. You could send it to a place and get it done a lot better, but it was kind of fun doing it myself. And like I said, I don't have much going on with the car that I can actually do right now, so I've just been doing some stuff like this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. As always, hit that subscribe button, comment down below, and hit that thumbs up. I'll see you guys on the next one.
They got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems. I solve them. I run through the money. The pressure be calling. Left on my blessings. I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm coming. I'm going through something. That's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection. I summon it. Tell me.